Okay guys, so today's video is going to be, and session is going to be on mass, density, volume. So the last lesson we had properly was on speed, distance, time. Now mass, density, volume, again, you may have seen in science before, but it's got a similar process. Now before we look at this question, which we will do, I want to firstly look at the triangle we're dealing with here. Mass, density, volume, okay? And as you know with these triangles, that's divide and that's times. So if we were looking for density, I'd cover up D and I'd do mass divided by volume. If I was looking for volume, I'd cover up V and do mass divided by density. If I was looking for mass, I'd cover up mass and do density divided by volume. Okay, this here, we must remember it in that order. The M must be at the top. Now for those of you that want a way to remember it, either come up with your own idea of how that might happen. My one's a little bit soppy, but I remember it, so it works. My dear Valentine. It's a bit silly, but I remember that M, my, is at the top. My dear Valentine, mass, density, volume. Anyway, let's look through the questions. I've got two questions and I've got one thing at the end to talk about just to keep you aware of it. So, a piece of wood has a mass of 12 grams. Look, it's used G for grams, so therefore you know that's going to be the unit for grams. And a volume of 10 centimetre cubed, so it's measured in centimetre cubed. Okay, work out the density. So we want to work out the density. So I'm going to cover up the D, leaving me with mass divided by volume. So I know to get density, I'm going to do mass divided by volume. Okay, so density equals, the mass we know is 12, so it's going to be 12 over, the volume they've told us is 10, so it's 12 over 10, so density equals 1.2. Now, we've got to be careful here because the units are so important. Okay, 12 divided by 10 is 1.2, that's fine. But we now need to look for density. We look at the mass one first, which is grams. So we put grams. But then because it's a combination of the grams and centimetre cubed, you do grams per centimetre cubed. And that makes sense because you're dividing them anyway. So grams over centimetre cubed. So 1.2 grams per centimetre cubed. That will be the answer with the units there. Okay? Let's look at the next question here. Okay, so making sure you can see it in the video. Yep. Right. The mass of 4 meter cubed of tin is 18,500 kilograms. Now, I want to go through something quite quickly here. This is a different type of question and it is more challenging. Okay? The first part isn't, the second part will require a bit more thinking. So don't skip the video or anything like that. So the mass of 4 meter cubed of tin is 18. Right, so what they've given here is, now this is why it's more difficult, guys, because you think to yourself, well, what's the mass then? Is the mass 4 meter cubed? No, the mass is that, because the mass is measured in kilograms here. The 4 meter cubed represents the volume. Now, they haven't given us the word volume anywhere here, but we know when something is something cubed, that means volume. So what we've got, we know it's my dear Valentine. Right, we know the mass is that. We know the volume, because of the meter cubed, is that. So work out the density. All right, density, cover it up, mass divided by volume. So density equals mass divided by volume. In this case, the density, the mass we know is 18,500, and we divide that by the volume, which we've just found out there, is 4. So the density of the tin, in this case, is 18,500 divided by 4, which is 4625. Now remember, guys, the units are super important here. So therefore we look at what it was given in the mass, which is kilograms. So it'd be kilograms per, and then we look at what the volume is, meter cubed. So therefore that would be our density of the tin. Right, the next part of the question. The density of aluminium is 25,000 kilograms per meter cubed. Right, so the density is much bigger for aluminium than it was for tin. Work out the difference in mass. Right, okay. The difference in mass between 5 meter cubed of tin and 5 meter cubed of aluminium. So we are going to separately do two calculations here. One is going to be about the tin, and one is going to be about the aluminium. Now, they've told us here that 5 meter cubed of tin and 5 meter cubed of aluminium, that's the volume for the tin and that's the volume for the aluminium. So they've given us the volume for the tin and the volume for the aluminium, and they've also given us the density of the aluminium, and we've just worked out the density for the tin. So we again can use this triangle here. It might be easier for us to write down what we know. So MdV, let's write down what we know in these questions here. MdV, just so we're absolutely clear. The mass here, we don't know. We want to work out what it is. The density of the tin is 4625 kilograms per meter cubed, and the volume of the tin, they've asked it to be 5 meter cubed. Okay, now the aluminium, the mass we want to find out, the density is 25,000 kilograms per meter cubed, and the volume is here as well, 5 meter cubed. So we've now got what we need for both calculations to work out the mass here and the mass here. Now, the mass for the tin, as you know, when you find mass, you cover it up. So you're left with density times volume. So it would be mass equals density times volume. All right, so mass equals 4625 times 5. So the mass would be 23,125 kilograms. Okay, so that there, hopefully you can see it, is the mass of the tin. Now the aluminium, the exact same thing, guys. You want to find the mass, so therefore cover it up, density times volume. So it'll be mass equals density times volume. So mass equals, in this case, 25,000 times by 5. So 25,000 times by 5 is 125,000 kilograms. So we've just worked out the mass of the tin is 23,125. The mass of the aluminium is 125,000. It wants us to work out the difference between these two. So therefore the difference between them, you simply just take them away. So it'll be 125,000 minus 23,125 minus 23,125 is 101,875 kilograms, and that would be our final answer here. So therefore it is a trickier question, guys, and there's no question about it, but if you lay it out like I have, you'll be able to see what they're given. Now, what we've learned from this question is that they don't always say the word volume. They may just give you what the volume is. And that leads nicely onto my very last point of this video, where sometimes you may be required to find the volume of a shape before using this. So they may give you, for example, a cuboid like this. Oh, that was a really, really awful drawing. And they may say, I don't know, 5, 6, 8, and they give you the mass. The mass is 400 grams, and they'll say find the density, and then you say, but I don't have the volume, in which case you try and work out the volume first. You'd say, well, 6 times 5 is 30, times it by 8, which is 240, so the volume is 240 centimeter cubed, and then you've got enough information to work out density. Okay, so sometimes you may have to actually physically work out the volume in order to be able to use that in the triangle. All right, hopefully this has been helpful. Best of luck. Let me know if you're stuck.